Pasquera say, Zimbabwe, welcome to our channel Zim Confessions and Deep Secrets. Kana kari kutanga kukuya PaNhau channel, please don't forget to subscribe. Kana chungoga our subscriber, don't forget to comment and share this video. Naspre Zimbabwe takuira nyaya kupisa nyaya kunetsa. Nyaya yema War Veterans, the Zimbabwe National War Veterans Association, yaka announce kuti Iowa they are done with President YaMnangagwa Irikurongwa and ukama wavo wapera mure Zimbabwe. This War Veterans faction, that means they are an important arm, but there is an PF, and that means they are powerful. Panyaya remove President YaMnangagwa. Wakabuda a press conference was YaMnangagwa should step down or else achabiswa. Zinechisimba mure Zimbabwe. Chorwa Tugita, my political analysts are saying that a coup is not going to work. Pakubisa President YaMnangagwa sizvakaitika pana Robert Mugabe since chatoshanda ipapa in impeachment via the country's legislature. But Iowa, it's not going to be an easy thing. As one of my challenges we expect to face some more veterans impeach President YaMnangagwa. Alex Magaisa, a prominent lawyer and a political analyst, it's not going to be easy to impeach President YaMnangagwa. The ZW News. The Zimbabwe National War Veterans Association has announced that their romance with President YaMnangagwa is now over and want to divorce him. The War Veterans, an important arm of the ruling party ZANU-PF, is said to be the most powerful in as far as removing President is concerned. Speaking in a televised press conference, they demanded that Mnangagwa should step down or risk being forced to do so. Meanwhile, analysts believe whatever way they are going to use to remove Mnangagwa is not via coup like what happened to late former President Robert Mugabe in 2017. Others are of the opinion that since another coup would not be used, then Mnangagwa could be removed through an impeachment via the country's legislature. Apparently, an article by late lawyer and political analyst Alex Magaisa gives insights on the challenges to be expected by all veterans if they choose impeachment as a way to remove Mnangagwa. Magaisa was writing in reference to Mugabe, who faced impeachment ahead of his eventual resignation under pressure. The fact in the article remains true even in Mnangagwa's case. Magaisa wrote on Twitter saying, impeaching President Mugabe will not be a quick or simple affair. Now that ZANU-PF is resolved to commence impeachment proceedings against Zimbabwe's president, it is important to examine this constitutional process. There is a great sense of expectation among the people, fueled by high levels of desperation to see the president's departure after a long time in power. However, it is important to shed light on what this process entails. While it is desirable to fast-track the procedure, there are certain fundamental matters of law and principle that cannot be sidestepped. These make the procedure more complicated than has previously been suggested. Let us examine the stages of impeachment procedure. First, there must be a resolution supported by a simple majority of the total membership of Parliament recommending the removal of President on one or more grounds stated in Section 97 of the Constitution. A simple majority of total membership of Parliament means members of National Assembly and the Senate must vote together sitting in a joint body. The resolution must be supported by more than 50% of the combined members of the National Assembly and Senate. Second, once the first resolution has been passed, Parliament's Committee on Standing Rules and Orders must appoint a joint committee of both the National Assembly and Senate consisting of 9 members. The membership of this committee must reflect the political composition of Parliament. In other words, it must have proportional representation of the parties represented. In this case, that means it must have representatives from ZANU-PF and opposition and other formations. This committee must carry out investigations to establish whether there is a justifiable ground for removal of the president. Third, once the committee has completed its investigations, it makes a recommendation to the Parliament. If the recommendation is that President must be removed, both the National Assembly and the Senate must sit together in a joint session to vote on the motion of removal. This time, the motion of removal must be supported by at least 2/3 majority of the total membership of MPs and senators. The higher threshold reflects the gravity of removing the president. Power to the party. Zimbabwe's coup isn't a revolution but a consolidation. Only the short-sighted would say we have been liberated. Life continues amid Zimbabwe's political limbo. What are the implications of all this? First, while most people would prefer these actions to be fast-tracked, this process cannot be achieved in 24 hours or even a week, as has been suggested by some. The motion to trigger an investigation may be easy to get because it requires a simple majority, but the investigation by the Committee of 9 is not a few hours or even 1 week affair. In investigation, we have to consider and protect the rights of investigated person, in this case the president. It is important to note that this is the first time that Zimbabwe Parliament will be carrying out this procedure. It will have to set up clear rules guided by Constitution, the Declaration of Rights and principles of natural justice. It can also learn from experiences in other jurisdictions. As experiences elsewhere demonstrate, impeachment proceedings are not a simple or quick affair. In crafting these rules, Zimbabwe must be guided not by emotions or the prevailing attitude towards Mugabe, but by tried and tested principles. Whatever Parliament does now will set a precedent for the future. Second, the requirement for a committee of 9 and the process of investigation are mechanisms designed to ensure the process of removing the president is fair and in accordance with the constitutional rights and principles of natural justice. This includes the right to a fair hearing, right to be heard, the right to fair representation, and the right to defend oneself. In other words, the word of accusers is not enough to trigger a vote of impeachment. Should the president's constitutional rights and principles of natural justice be flouted, he may well challenge the process in a court of law. If Parliament does not want to be embarrassed, it will have to adhere to recognized rules and respect the rights of the accused. He will have to be entitled to challenge evidence against him and cross-examine the witnesses. He too may have his own witnesses if the president is alleged to be unable to perform his functions because of physical or mental incapacity. That means physical, medical, or mental tests must be carried out, and presumably by more than one expert. One of the grounds is being cited against the president is that he failed to adhere to due processes. It would be ironic if his accusers now do not recognize his own right to due process. The implications of all this are that this may well take more than is being suggested. It will go on until and beyond the ZANU-PF Congress. The president could therefore use these constitutional and legal safeguards to buy more time until the end of his next term, by which point the question of impeachment could well be academic. It is possible, of course, that the commencement of impeachment proceedings is designed not to follow the long course of the law, but is rather a tool for political purposes. In this case, it could work well in that it adds more pressure on the president, and it is possible he might feel daunted by the prospect of an investigation. The president is never liked being questioned by anyone, let alone by MPs. One of the conspicuous features of the system is that he created since he became executive. Under the new constitution, he can be invited to answer questions in Parliament, but he is not obliged to attend. Ironically, when constitution was being written, he pushed for a provision that he would require the president to be directly answerable to Parliament and to attend before it when called. But it was the ZANU-PF politicians who are now trying to get rid of him that resisted that clause. Still believe this is as good an opportunity as any for Parliament to use its power to invite him to come and answer questions. He will probably use his right to refuse, but it will embarrass him before his peers in Africa who have been defending him. The third issue is that since the 9-member committee that carries out the investigations must include members of opposition, ZANU-PF's Patrick Chinamasa was myopic and imprudent to dismiss the roles of opposition in this process. The opposition could easily drag and derail this process if ZANU-PF chooses the path of arrogance as shown by Chinamasa. Nomabuditiro wakati kwa nyaya imre Zimbabwe tingaziwe kunena sei tuze za mukufunga pamusoro penyaya iyi mu comment section.